gross. This would be gross if he wasn't a prince. This is disgusting considering that he comes from the royal family. And he's over here just being like, could you throw some pennies on the floor so that we can crawl around? You know? Just please, any crumbs off the table, anything you got, we'll take whatever scraps you got. You got some old lettuce over there, you know? Chew on a soggy tomato. We're hungry. It's like, this is so embarrassing. Please stop. Hey, how are you? All right, you guys. Straight out the gate, I gotta tell you, this chapter is insane. And also, this chapter has to deal with the birth of the baby. And I'm going to tell you right now, you guys, Tom Bower does not believe that she had that baby. And he doesn't say it outright, but he doesn't have to because I'm here to read between the lines. And I'm telling you, this man does not believe that child is real. And there's just so much in this chapter that is just disgusting when it comes to how greedy she is, how secretive she is, how maniacal, how controlling. I mean, get the sick bucket, you guys. If Meghan bugs you and like you've been like, I've reached my capacity, like on past videos, just sit down for this one. Don't try to clean while you listen to this because you won't be able to. You'll end up drinking the bleach just to end it all. All right, well, the title of this chapter is called Pitching. We're going to get right into it. I wanted just to hearken way back to that video on Friday. That feels like years ago that we were all together on that one. I had posed a question or asked for your insight last time on Lady C. And I was saying that to my understanding and my experience with her, she sometimes seems like she's a little bit of an ungracious individual with the information that she has. And I didn't care for that in the videos that I'd seen. And I would say that many people understood what I was saying. But a lot of people very generously helped me to see another side. And a comment that I saw a lot was her videos can sometimes come off as a little catty, but her writing is very unbiased. And I think that I can totally see how it would be a lot easier to be unbiased when you're sitting down, you're rereading your own words, you can hear a little bit better. When you're just off the cuff, just talking, and then you post a video, you know, you don't always go back and think about like what your tone was. So all this to say, glowing recommendations of her written word, agreements on sometimes her spoken tone. So all this to say, I'm not going to do a Lady C book next time, but maybe in the future I'll get a chance to read one of her books. There's just so many books that I want to get to that I just don't know. But in the future, it may be that we do read something from her, since I've gotten so many people saying her tone's a little off-putting, but her books are very good, very well researched. She tries to be unbiased. So that's good to know. But thanks again for everybody who helped inform and sort of broaden my horizons on her. Okay. And then the only other thing I would say is, so, you know, on the weekends, we are doing the book called Stories I Tell Myself by Juan F. Thompson, the son of Hunter S. Thompson. And so many people have told me that they were reluctant to listen to a book that wasn't royal, or they just weren't really sure, but they gave it a chance and love it. Over and over and over, I've read that in the comments. I wasn't sure. I gave it a chance. I'm hooked. So, the numbers on those videos are terrible. I mean, the views are terrible because there's only like 3,000 people that are willing to give it a shot. And I have not seen one negative comment, with the exception of one who said she would have liked a trigger warning on it because, you know, Hunter S. Thompson lived a wild life. But other than that, I've only seen really positive feedback. So my little plug here is that if you think you wouldn't enjoy it, maybe go read some of the comments. If you're like, I don't want to invest 45 minutes on a chapter here, go read some of the comments. You'll see what I'm talking about. People really like it. So if you're looking for something to listen to, you're going on a road trip, you're cleaning house, you're doing your chores, errands, whatever, and you want something to listen to, highly recommend it. I promise it won't disappoint. Okay, I'm done with that. Now, on to the chapter. This chapter is called Pitching. It's chapter 29. And essentially, what it's covering two main things: the birth of the baby and what snakes Harry and Meghan are, and how many backdoor deals they have, how much covering up they're doing. Their panic when they realize that the foundation that they started, where they were going to try to sort of funnel in money and use charity funds for personal gain, when the whistle gets blown on that, they panic. So this is a very, 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 very colorful description of what snakes these two are, and the many, many, many deals they have with Hollywood, and how Oprah and Gayle King are basically their henchmen when it comes to getting stuff done in America and making deals and all this. You guys, I have strong feelings about Oprah Winfrey. Strong negative feelings about Oprah Winfrey. And I was doing some research on her. I've never liked her. I never liked the brand. Even back in the day when she was Miss Popular, like in the 90s, which I remember my mom watching Oprah when I was a kid. But like in the 2000s and all this, I remember thinking, I don't like that lady. But I didn't like her because I felt like so much of the things that she said were just unwise, and it was just like platitudes, and it was just like, just love yourself out of your trauma. And it's like, well, but can you? And so it was all this just new age, feel good, goodery, like just think hard enough and your dreams will come true. So I didn't like her for that, because I was like, why are you feeding all these people all this false hope? What is all this? And as I've gotten older and learned more and more and more about the way she operates in Hollywood and the way she takes down people that she doesn't like, and the way she will, I mean, if you don't know about her and Monique and how she totally and completely devastated Monique's career because she was so busy exploiting Monique's horrific assault by her own brother for her own personal gain, so that she could get ratings and get viewers on her own show, and how she just tanked Monique's career because Monique wasn't, down to continually talking about how she was interfered with by her brother. Even if that was the only story I knew about Oprah, I wouldn't like her. But there's been so many allegations that have linked her to horrific trafficking that it's like, this lady is operating for the Hollywood elite, like the dark Hollywood elite, like the evilness that we've seen, the Harvey Weinstein side of things, if you ask me. So I don't like her. And the fact that she is in bed with Meghan and Harry, like on the regular, makes me that much more sure I cannot ever rely on this woman for anything. I mean, I already knew I didn't like her, but the fact that she would associate with these people, give these people a legitimizing platform, bring their stories to the American living room, and try to make these people seem like they aren't snakes. I can't even believe that anybody even gives Oprah like the time of day since she's been involved with Harry and Meghan. Okay, let's just get right into it. All right, so Tom Bower starts this chapter out by saying, the exclusivity demanded by Oprah Winfrey matched Meghan and Harry's mood for retaliation against the royal family, the media, and the British public. To build up Meghan's profile in America, Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King had an exclusive agreement with Meghan to produce a glowing CBS TV documentary about her first year of marriage. It would be transmitted at peak time soon after the birth of her baby. In exchange, Meghan guaranteed that no other TV network would get access to her or the child. I'm going to just take a quick break there, real quick, you guys. CBS, that's an American network, obviously. So excluded from the introduction of her baby to the British people was the BBC and ITV News. Somebody help me understand how this was allowed by the palace. Like, why wasn't the palace being like, hold up, no you don't. CBS, there's the door, okay? This is England here. And the British broadcasters will have the say. They'll get the story. Gayle King, Oprah, stay on your shore. I mean, I just can't believe they were okay with this. All right, well, they make the deal. And probably it was allowed because nobody knew this was the deal. The strategy, kept tightly secret, was fully supported by Sunshine Sachs, obviously. The tripartite American agreement came under the headline label, privacy. Harry agreed that Buckingham Palace be given no choice. CBS would be given exclusive rights to film the Queen being introduced to baby Archie. The birth and the aftermath would signal the Sussexes' break from the palace. Okay. This is when they start on their whole, we need privacy, we need privacy, we need privacy. And Tom Bower is going to go on to give us a really lovely definition of their version of privacy. But as we know, and as we've seen many's the time with these people, they are all about taking words we know and redefining them. And that is what authoritarian regimes always do. So of course Meghan, who needs to control constantly and continually, is going to take something out of the authoritarian playbook, take a word, change its meaning, and then be mad at you for not knowing it. In mid-April, Sarah Latham, their new spokesperson, announced that the Sussexes would keep the plans around the arrival of their baby private. Yeah, you can see why they would need to do this. There ain't no baby, okay? Not only would the hospital be kept secret, but even the identity of the godparents would remain undisclosed. Yeah, because who is going to be a godparent to a moon bump? On cue, Oprah Winfrey supported the Sussexes' unprecedented decisions. Meghan, she announced, would start her family in a different way than it's been done for more than 1,000 years. Well, Oprah, yeah, this is different. Most people don't pretend they're having a baby when it's a surrogate that's having the child. You're right. This is a different way to start one's family that isn't traditionally the royal way. Well, as Tom Bauer says, traditionally, royal births are cause for national celebration. And also, the publicity accompanying royal births has always been essential to establish the newborn's legitimacy. Tom Bauer doesn't believe this baby's real. Or that it has anything to do with Meghan having carried it. You know, maybe they did use IVF, but that's against royal protocol. You're not allowed to do IVF. So, because it's got to be from the heir of the throne. How do you prove it when it's all secrecy and it's been made in a petri dish? You don't know. So, Tom Bauer is with us, you guys. He may not be able to speak clearly on it, but he knows some shady business has gone down. Inevitably, the Sussexes' decision reignited controversy. Some were sympathetic to the Sussexes' self-protection from the hazards of fame, but others were perplexed how privacy matched the Sussexes' agenda of modernizing and serving the people. Right? Because it's always privacy when they want it. But what about William and Catherine, who are much more popular than them? The world knows their children's faces. The world was there for the birth. They've never hidden their children from the public. But has there ever been a threat to any of those children's lives? Those three have never been in jeopardy, even though any of us could pick them out of a crowd. We've seen them so often. All right. So if they're okay, what exactly is going on with Meghan and Harry's idea of, like, they've had predecessors who have gone on before. And see, that's why that would be my problem. I'd be like, okay, well, what from William and Catherine's experience has taught you that you should be afraid? Are they always having to guard their children, hide the children's faces, keep them under wraps and covers? You know, so this is just a bunch of baloney about, well, for our privacy's sake. Well, the more popular ones aren't worried about privacy, so what's your problem? It's always, always, always just so they can complain and act like terror and trauma is right around every other corner. Now, this is when Tom Bauer decides to explain to us what privacy meant. He says, few understood the Sussexes' definition of privacy. For the couple, privacy did not mean remaining secret and unseen. Rather, it meant enforcing total control over their images and the accompanying narrative. If that strategy upset the palace and tore up the royal rulebook, that was a bonus. So always redefining the terms, these people. And that's exactly what it is. It's privacy means you don't get to say what we don't want you to say. Privacy means I control your speech, right? Privacy means I control your perception of me. Privacy never meant I'm not going to be seen. But privacy is a really lovely thing to hide behind because who's going to... It's really easy to say, I want to protect my child, they didn't ask for this and all this. All right, that's the Hollywood elite love to say that. And to a certain extent, that is... I completely understand why a lot of celebrities say we don't want our kids to have to be thrust into the limelight. But if you get married to a prince whose sole job is to be in front of a camera, whose sole job is to represent the British people, who having children with him will mean that your child's face will then be public. I mean, you don't become a prince and nobody's ever seen you. Again, the legitimacy issue. But for Meghan to come marching in and think that she can have children with this guy and then just, be Hollywood about it and be like, our children's identity is protected. Not when you're a prince, it's not. So why don't you marry somebody else? Meghan's original plan, oh, you guys, okay, hold on, sit down. This is so much trash, I cannot even. Meghan's original plan was to have a home birth, helped by her mother. Okay, you guys, I'm not scoffing at home birth necessarily. I considered it myself with my first. I watched the documentary, Birth Incorporated or whatever that one was. I saw it. I got scared of Pitocin. I remember being like, come hell or high water, I'm having that baby on the living room floor. I'm never going to a hospital. Had all my kids in a hospital. But I'm not poo-pooing the idea. I'm just saying that at 37 years old, you laying on the, in the bathtub with your mom presiding over that ceremony, probably not a great plan. And also, what do we know of Doria's ability to birth children? Is she some kind of midwife? This is the first I've heard of it. Okay, well, Tom Bauer says, look, at 37 years old, there's an element of risk to this plan. But then when the baby was overdue, the plan was ditched. On May 5th, Meghan was driven at speed from Frogmore to Portland Hospital, a private clinic in central London. At 5:26 a.m. on the 6th of March, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was born. Okay. This is a very interesting setup here, okay? They didn't let anybody know they were going to the hospital. They give birth to the baby, or somebody does. They receive the baby at this Portland hospital. But the deception begins immediately because while they're over there getting the baby, having the baby, whatever you want to say is going on. Well, that's going on. At 2 p.m., over 8 hours after Archie was born, Buckingham Palace announces that Meghan has gone into labor. So they've got the baby. They've had the baby like 8 hours ago. Then they tell Buckingham Palace, oh, Meghan's in labor. So Buckingham Palace immediately puts that forth. And gleefully, Meghan and Harry, by the time that information is out, are already home. They loved this. They tricked Buckingham Palace on purpose. 20 minutes later, at 2:20 p.m., his birth was announced on the Sussex Instagram site. So then Buckingham Palace is like, oh my gosh, she couldn't have had the baby in 20 minutes if she just went into labor. They tricked us. She's already had the baby like ages ago. Backpedaling, they realize they've been fooled. Buckingham Palace officials caught up a few minutes later with a formal announcement, and they said, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex was safely delivered of a son at 5:26 hours. The baby weighs 7 pounds 3 ounces. The Duke of Sussex was present for the birth. By then, the Sussexes and baby were back in Frogmore. Meghan was in total control. And don't you just know she loved making them look like idiots? She loved having had this baby and being home before they even knew to announce it. And she loves proving that the palace can't control her. She loves screaming. She has used the birth of this child for her own advantage so many times already. And here she is, once again, letting the entire world know. I don't really care that much about the baby, but I want to let you know. Those people over there, buffoons. Torn between Meghan's strategy and sharing his own happiness, Harry could not resist appearing for the media in the early afternoon. Because we know that Harry wanted to get married and have kids for like years. So finally, this has come upon him. However the baby was procured, finally, he has a son to call his own. So he's not in for like hiding around and, leaving messages on Instagram. He wants to come out to the media and let them know. Finally, it's happened for me. He's so dim-witted, he thought the wedding, she loved him, and now he thinks the baby is like all exciting and that it's this, creation of their love. And it's just like, oh, Harry, there's so much you don't understand about your own life. But standing in the Queen's stables at Windsor Castle, the casually dressed prince trilled, I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby earlier this morning, a very healthy baby. Mother and baby are doing incredibly well. It's been the most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine. How any woman does what they do is beyond comprehension. I haven't been at many births. This is definitely my first. It was amazing. Absolutely incredible. So we just wanted to share that with everybody. Well, congratulations, Harry. I wish it was all real and true and it wasn't cloaked and shrouded in mystery, fog, and daggers. The Sussexes then made through their spokesperson an important announcement. Okay, you guys. See, now I didn't remember this, right? Important announcement indeed, all right? So everybody, if you forgot this part, or you were unfamiliar with this part of the story, this just is so dang typical of Meghan. With Harry's agreement, the palace also disclosed that the Sussexes had decided that Archie should not be a prince. Let's not give him a title. No. Their spokesperson, Sarah Latham, also came out and said that they did not want to be bound by convention or history. Meghan wanted her son to be plain Mr. Archie and not bear the title of a royal. They said they wanted to protect his privacy, so they didn't want him to be a prince. Okay, we got two problems here, all right? The first problem is, oh, you don't want a royal title. Oh, you are the one who rejected it. Oh, so when you were whining, complaining to Oprah that no one gave you a title, it's something you agreed to upon hours of his birth. You didn't want it. But more importantly, okay, your son didn't get the title of prince until the queen died. So your rejection of it, and you're like, oh, no. We want our child to have privacy. We want him to be plain old Mr. Archie. He's not a prince. We want him to know what the real world's actually like. We want him to live like the commoners. Well, that's really easy to not accept when it hasn't been extended to you yet. You don't get it yet. So you actually don't get to reject it. It hasn't been offered. All right, so do you see what's going on here? Either way, she gets to play a card. They try to give it to her. No. Then when they say, oh, your son is not a prince because he can't get that title yet until the queen passes, they won't give him a title. What the hell is happening here? Is it because of the color of my skin? So it's just like, lady, why don't you just take a rest? You must be so tired from all of this, of trying to manipulate everybody's words no matter what they say, she's going to manipulate it so that she can come off as a victim, plagued, beaten, and assaulted. All right, well, all they care about, and this is what we just want privacy. We just want privacy. We just want privacy. It's all they won't stop talking about it. Now, Tom Bower says that regardless of the title, Meghan had been told that her family would continue to be fully protected by the Metropolitan Police. On Archie's birth certificate, his mother named herself as Rachel Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. But 3 weeks later, the palace lawyers ordered the certificate should be altered to Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. So, regardless of how she feels about titles, they want to make her know, look, your title is still well intact, In fact, we're going to elevate it. You didn't even know what to call yourself. You're actually more important than you even listed on the birth certificate. And we still want to give you protection. I mean, the palace never took title, protection, or try to degrade her in any way. So all of her belly aching to Oprah, they wouldn't give him a title. They took away protection. They degraded me at every turn of the way. None of it happened. Just after the birth, oh y'all, this cracked me. I had recalled this slightly, but it still cracked me up. Just after the birth, Thomas Woodcock, the Garter-at-Arms, called to discuss Archie's title. Her son, explained Woodcock, would automatically inherit the title Lord Dumbarton, since Harry, on marrying Meghan, was made Earl of Dumbarton. Hell no, exclaimed Meghan. No son of mine is going to be called Dumb. I don't really understand the way titles are given. I don't understand how he's a prince and she's a duchess, but then they're also earls and countesses. I don't understand all of that. The fact, though, that she is so lame that they would give her a title, she hears dumb in the full name. It's Dumbarton, not dumb. And she just has this middle school fit. It's like, lady, how are you rushing on to the age of 40? And this is how you go through life. Dumb! No! Hell no! No son of mine's gonna be called dumb. Girl, you just proved he should be. 2 days later after Archie's birth, CBS Gayle King was in Windsor for his first public appearance. As I stated before, BBC and ITV, no. Absolutely bar the door to them. But CBS from the foreign coasts, why don't you come on in and give the royal news? That is timed perfectly so that CBS's Sunday morning show in New York can also catch the footage. This isn't an American announcement. This is not American news. This is outrageous. This is such a slap in the face of all the British people. And you know what? Feel your ways about the palace. What did the people in London and Sussex and all these, what did they ever do to you? How have they insulted you to such an extent that you would not only bar them from knowing when the baby is coming, when all they wanted to do was celebrate you, but then also you say to them, you're not even worth the announcement that is to come. I'm going to make sure that this is aired on American news to Americans who don't give a crap about a new prince. What do we care? I mean, congratulations on the baby, but it's not our news. What do we care about it? All right. Well, at Gail's request, Meghan timed the photo call to St. George's Hall in Windsor Castle with the start of CBS Morning News in New York. The photograph released by the palace showed the Queen, Prince Philip, Doria, and the Sussexes staring at a shawl. Bauer didn't believe it. Neither CBS nor a single photographer present were allowed to record Archie's face. Huge weirdness. Huge weirdness about this baby. Okay, look, y'all. We all saw them come prancing out with her in her sleeveless white dress and him holding the baby, the proud father that he was. The baby's wrapped in a blanket. I mean, it was clearly something was in that. You could see like this much of the child's face. So clearly something was in that blanket. But I'm even willing to wager that it was a well-made doll. Because I'm not saying that there isn't a child somewhere. But what I'm saying is that she would have enjoyed the subterfuge and the secrecy and putting this little baby in. And even if she told the Queen and everybody, this isn't actually my baby, but I don't want the public to know. Like, I would even believe that. That child didn't seem to move at all. I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. And also, the baby's skin color was a little bit tan for how it looks now. And you know babies when they're born are always more pale than they are later on. Even babies born to like much darker skinned people, this baby was a lot more tan than any pictures I've seen of this kid since. This kid's whiter than Harry is. All right, that's an aside. But regardless of the fact that nobody ever saw hide nor hair of the child's actual face, we got like, a quarter of his cheek. Gayle King was delighted because her reward for securing exclusive access to Meghan in Windsor and for the TV documentary to be shown 10 days later was an enhanced annual contract fee estimating to be doubled to $11 million. So she is just raking it in on this association with Meghan. After every precedent was broken, the critics of Meghan were forceful. People despised her for this. As well they should have. She just took a boot to their face and gleefully stomped them. This is ridiculous behavior. The fact that she couldn't deign to walk out of the hospital like Catherine has every single time. The fact that she could not joyfully celebrate the birth of her child. Like, people aren't trying to come after your kid by you coming out on the steps. What do you think? Some madman's going to rush up out of the crowd, snatch the baby out of your arms, dash it to the ground, and run off? Like, what world do you think that you're living in? What has happened to you thus far that would make you believe that the world is full of evildoers that are out to get you, exclusively to get you and your husband? What is happening? All right. Well, devastated by the fact that everyone hated her, she calls her pal George Clooney out to let him be her spokesperson. And I don't know what dirt she has on George Clooney. The fact that he would constantly come out and use his own spokespeople, his own social media platforms, and his own voice to call out the media for abusing Meghan. The fact that he keeps on doing this, it's like, what does Meghan have on George Clooney that he would be willing to constantly put his name in the ring with hers? Well, he comes out and he says, people should be a little kinder. She's a young woman who's just had a baby. Actually, according to the laws of medicine, she's an old woman who just had a baby, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Meghan's own explanation of these arrangements to Oprah Winfrey nearly 2 years later was contradictory. First, she said, we weren't asked to take a picture. That was part of the spin that was really damaging. So her claim is that, yeah, nobody took any pictures of Archie because nobody asked to take a picture. So since they didn't ask, she didn't offer. And now for everybody to come back around and say that she was some kind of a snake for not letting anybody see the baby, I mean, that was just really disingenuous. All right, but then in the same conversation, she admitted to Oprah that she had banned photos. And that was, she said, in protest because the palace had denied Archie a prince's title and was denying him police protection. Both things are not true and can be proven as not true. We have her own spokesperson having come out to say they don't want a prince's title. They want him to be plain Mr. Archie. They want him to live a normal life. They want to be able to hide his identity because they think that he needs this privacy. They denied the title first. And also, it had never been offered to them because it wouldn't, by all palace protocols, be available to them until the Queen's death. So whatever wild misunderstanding she seems to be having, and that is gracious of me to say it, is completely one of her own making, because she could have been, somebody would have explained this to her. She is willfully ignorant of this topic. And the thing is that, you guys, she's not willfully ignorant. She's playing this information so that whatever side they take, she can complain and either reject it or cry that it wasn't offered. She's probably the most difficult person I've ever encountered in truth, fiction, in any kind of capacity. She's probably one of the most difficult people I've ever read about. She says, though, that I was very scared of having to offer up our baby, knowing that they weren't going to be kept safe. Both those explanations she ought to have known were untrue. Forgetting her own announcement that Archie would be a private citizen without a title, she would tell Oprah, a child who's not going to be protected and doesn't have a title, how does that make sense? Does she think that our memory is broken? Does she think that she's talking to people who have Alzheimer's? Like, is the entire nation filled with people who have memory disease? What is happening here with her inability to predict that we are going to come fighting back and be like, wait a second, that's not so? She must think that we are colossally ignorant. What does she think that we do all day? Does she think that we're just over here eating sticks of lard and, popping sleeping pills? I mean, what kind of degenerates does she think we are that we wouldn't have the capacity to recall that she's the one who made this announcement? Well, the turmoil continued at Archie's christening in Windsor. Meghan banned the palace's accredited photographer and confirmed that his godparents' name would remain secret. This is super weird. This is just like when she invited no one to her wedding and thought that it was unseemly that anyone should know no one on her family's side was invited. Why doesn't everybody just get off my back already? Because it's weird that no one from your family came, that's why. All right, and this business of no one can take a picture, not even the accredited photographer, okay? We're not talking about some goons on the street flying up into your child's face, okay? This is an accredited photographer. She won't let him anywhere near. And to continually be like, the godparents will not, their identities will not be known. How can that be possible? You're at the christening. Aren't the godparents supposed to stand up with you? All right, well, in explanation, she told Oprah that the same people who have been abusing me want me to serve my child on a silver platter? No, actually, it's not like that at all. This isn't John the Baptist's head that was just offered up to Herod as some kind of tribute. What wild reality is she engaged in that she's actively believing? Okay, just come on. We know she doesn't believe any of the stuff that comes out of her own mouth. But the reality that I'm talking about is the one where she thinks that she is never going to have to pay for the crazy that comes out of her mouth. She knows she's lying. She knows these things aren't true. She has looked at the situation and then picked it apart to figure out where's her wiggle room so that she can turn this into some kind of victimhood story. She knows she's doing that. So I'm not talking about how she's truly deceived in that arena. I'm talking about her deception, that the self-deception that says, keep telling another lie. They'll believe this one. They haven't yet, but this will be the one that really, pulls the wool over their eyes, for the final time. They'll never come out of this one. They'll never see the light after this one. All right, well, among those nevertheless identified as godparents were Mark Dyer, a former equerry, and Tiggy Legg Bork, Harry's trusted nanny, and Charles Van Staubenzee, an old school friend of Harry's. The media characterized Meghan's demands as poser's petulance. Amen, media. Finally getting it right. And those tabloids that she'd always been so hungry for, they've turned against her and will have nothing positive to say. Well, during all this storminess, she's got one friend. And surprise, surprise, it isn't George Clooney this time. Her hairdresser comes out and he says she doesn't deserve all this negative press. David Martin was outraged that there was this idea that Meghan, who had once been the perfect royal, is now being called Duchess Difficult. And he said it was malicious. And he pleaded, in the years that I've worked with her, she's never had a diva fit. Never. Harry and Meghan are very philanthropic. So, put that in your pipe and smoke it. It's like, you know what, you weirdo? I don't know what Meghan's paying you to do her hair so badly. But you've got to wake up and realize that these people, their star is dimming. You should be running from, not defending these people. Well, Daniel Martin had good reason to be grateful to Meghan. The truth is that he said that wedding put him in a whole other stratosphere on social media that he couldn't even understand. Yeah, neither can we, because we saw her hair. Among many other lucrative appointments, Martin had become a brand consultant for Dior. What is happening in the world of power? That's my question out of this book. Why would, after seeing that hot mess of a wedding hairstyle on every news station in the world, why would Dior then be like, hey, let's get a brand deal with this joker? He calls himself a hairdresser and clearly did her hair with an egg beater. Let's choose him. He must have some new and upcoming ideas. Capitalizing on the wedding and baby shower had transformed other unknowns into celebrities. By associating her designs with Meghan, Misha Nonu had opened a pop-up fashion boutique in central London and an intimate workshop for group sound healing using crystal bowls. Jessica Mulrooney, newly dubbed by Harper's Bazaar as the fairy godmother of Canadian fashion, had finally secured a contract on ABC's Good Morning America. Flaunting her relationship with Meghan, Mulrooney modeled new clothes on Instagram alongside her 3 children. Abigail Spencer, an actor from Suits, was also delighted that her friendship with Meghan had increased her Instagram following from 100,000 in 2016 to 500,000. Contrary to many expectations, her NBC TV show Timeless was not axed. Another beneficiary was Taryn Toomey, the fitness trainer. Meghan and Harry had urged their followers to explore Toomey's retreats in Mexico and Mystique at 3,600 pounds for 4 nights and to buy a peach moonshine necklace for 1,200 pounds. So everyone's just feasting off this cash cow that is Meghan and Harry. And I just feel like it's probably the grossest thing I've ever read about. Well, maybe not the grossest thing I've ever read about. We have heard about Prince Andrew. But of all the royals, this just seems like the most outlandish expression of greed and commercialism I've ever seen. And the fact that Meghan is allowing people to just ride her coattails like this and feast off of whatever crumbs she drops from the table is disgusting. But you know she loves the power of having all these people who now depend on her. The commercialism plans, especially the transactional relationships orchestrated by the Sussexes, unnerved the palace. Yeah, you don't say. Meghan's collaboration with her Los Angeles advisors and Gayle King convinced officials that the couple were heading beyond their control. Are we only now just coming to this conclusion? I surely hope not. I mean, yeah, at this late date, we could not conclude anything else. The fact that I'll just never get over the fact that she said the BBC and ITV could not come in, but that we'll invite CBS News in. I'd never get over that. And that, to me, is like the obvious. Like if she's trying to market herself to the Americans, she has no intention of staying in Britain. The struggle to find a replacement for Samantha Cohen, because you remember she'd been like, okay, I've done my due diligence for the palace. I wanted to be out of here after Geit was gone. I got dragged back in. I'm officially over here. I can't anymore with this. She finally struggled and fought her way out. And they needed to find somebody who could be a replacement for Samantha Cohen. And so they selected Fiona McIlwam. Fiona was a Foreign Office diplomat. And the height of her career was a 21-year service as the UK's ambassador to Albania. She was married to Daniel Korski, who was an aide to David Cameron. And as you can conclude, she had exactly zero in common with this Hollywood actress. So from the outset, it just seems strange that they would even appoint this person who what in the world would why would Meghan find this person some kind of confidant? And they want Meghan to revealing her intentions, but then they pair her up with somebody who Meghan would immediately see as an enemy. So, of course, she had no intentions of sharing her plans with Fiona. I mean, Sarah Latham had failed, and she had been handpicked by Harry and Meghan. So you can only imagine that anybody that the palace decided should be in charge, was shot coming in the door. Heather Wong and Cara Madden, the Duchess's project managers, had also failed to win Meghan's complete trust. I mean, we know the only person that she trusts isn't Harry. It's Marcus Anderson. So I don't think there's anybody on the globe who knows Meghan, least of all Harry. But did any of these palace staff ever have a chance? 100% no, they did not. What they needed was to hire a fox to fox the fox. They needed somebody devious in their back pocket. And I tell you what, they got it with the solicitor we're about to talk about in a second. Now, Meghan believed that she had good reason to be suspicious. All her requests were now referred to Buckingham Palace, and regularly the Queen's officials directed her staff to prioritize the palace's interests over Meghan's. More important, without consultation, a legal constraint had been imposed on Sussex Royal, their foundation. The problem here is that they should have been doing this at the beginning. All of Meghan's requests should have been funneled to Buckingham Palace first. She should never even been given her own staff. They should have been like, we need a tried and tested method here before we let her go her own way. To give her own staff was to be like, put a child in a candy store but nobody's watching what the kid's up to, right? And then being like, why is the child throwing up and sick all over the floor? Well, you left the child unattended in a candy shop, right? So they're wondering how in the world did this all spin out of control? Well, the minute you let her have control, that's when that happened. But luckily for them, they are quite clever. And they have this solicitor who was regularly employed by Buckingham Palace, who had been asked to create the foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And the couple believed that the lawyer had been tasked to reproduce the Royal Foundation. Of course, the Royal Foundation is the one that William and Catherine are associated with. So this man is a mastermind, and he's the hero we've been waiting for, these many years. Under the law, a foundation is private, and the patrons have no legal obligations, and there's no requirement to publish the detailed accounts of a foundation. But a foundation is very tricky to set up, and it also you need to have financing for it before its creation. So it requires finesse. It requires financing. You don't just throw a foundation together unless that foundation is registered as a charity, which is exactly what this solicitor did. And this is why it's important. A charity was going to leave them and their future wide open to the financial scrutiny that goes with charity regulation. It's easy to establish, you don't need original money, and a charity is obliged to publish detailed accounts, and it's subject to scrutiny by independent officials employed by the Charity Commission. All the donations that the Sussexes expected to receive, especially from America, would be itemized and published, as would be the salaries of their staff. As an officer of the charity, Meghan would be subject to fiduciary laws. The charity was incorporated on July 1st, 2019. There's nowhere for them to hide with this foundation, which was the original intention of it. They'd seen what William and Catherine were doing. William and Catherine have a foundation that is not registered as a charity. So what Harry and Meghan's colossal ignorance is exposed here, because they thought that, if we get a foundation, then we can hide too. We see that they aren't accountable and that they don't have to publish what they're up to. So, and with William and Catherine, you can trust that that's a fine arrangement. But the palace knew we cannot give Harry and Meghan something to hide behind here and be funneling in all this charity money, which they then overpay their staff, overpay their friends, overpay themselves, dipping into that charity money for their own financial gain. So they decided, okay, we're registering this as a charity, and this is going to come as a brutal blow. At their first meeting in Kensington Palace, the Sussex welcomed the foundation's 4 trustees. All of them were personally unknown to them. Stephen Martin Cooper was the chief executive of Horace Bank. Christy Jackson Jones and Karen Blackett were British businesswomen, and they had significant commercial and legal experience. And the chairman, Stefan Alisek Taylor, was a well-known businessman and philanthropist. In a solemn atmosphere, they discussed their objectives for the foundation's success. By the end of the meeting, the Sussexes were shocked. The trustees, they discovered, were neither mates nor servants. They were independents, and they would have complete control of the charity's money. Under the law, the Sussexes would be denied any privacy over the foundation's management. For Meghan, a master of control, the legal requirement of transparency was unexpected. The foundation's legal structure, she believed, was a deliberate bid to undermine her. Yeah. It was a bid to undermine you because they could not trust you. Yes, of course, they came rip-roaring in with the solicitor who knew a few things. And he says, hey, we want to stop them in their tracks. Then we will give them nowhere to hide. Well, once Meghan realized that she couldn't hide behind the Sussex Foundation, what's she going to stick around in Britain for? I mean, if she can't hide and be a snake and, slither around and make her deals, she can't stay here. I mean, these people are clearly against her. I mean, they want to count her pennies and see where she's spending it. They want to make sure she's not pocketing the big bucks. I mean, what is the matter with these people? Why would they try to stop her in her tracks like this? It's astounding. Look at the way they're just using and abusing her. And to think these people wanted her to show her baby after she had the baby. I mean, you've never heard of this kind of abuse before. Well, Jean and Nelthorpe Cowan had realized way back in the day that Meghan was a businesswoman first and foremost, and that everything was calculated on commercial terms. Financing her charities and her personal lifestyle were destined to be intertwined. So to have to expose this to people, she wasn't here for that. I mean, she probably packed her bags that night and started looking for flights. Harry was similarly incensed. Charles had assured him of a major role in a slimmed-down monarchy for at least 10 years, but I mean, the clock's ticking and he can see that the time's almost up. He's watching how there's a discrepancy in the treatment between William and himself, and he wanted out. And of course, Meghan wasn't disappointed by this. Jean and Nelthorpe Cowan later reflected that she thought Meghan would be able to stick it out a little longer than she did, but of course not. These two are scrambling for the exit plan. Meghan would later admit that she and Harry began the conversation about leaving Britain with the Queen even before their marriage. She claims that it was 2 years they were talking about it, but Harry has a whole nother story. Harry says, no. That's not so. Well, I did mention it to my grandmother, but not until January 2018. But that was because of the lack of support, from both the media and my family. And of course we wanted to leave. We were being maligned, abused and mistreated at every turn of the way. So of course I brought it up. But I didn't talk about it 2 years before. He claims that I never blindsided my grandmother. So to suggest that I just suddenly left the country and she knew nothing of it, that's so wrong, but so typical. So typical that anyone would think that about me. They're always trying to malign me, always trying to twist my words, my deeds and my actions. Harry did also confirm that they had discussed leaving Britain in 2019, around the time of Meghan's suicidal talks, and he said that the family tried to prevent him. In his version about their departure, he said they talked about it all through 2019, and it was spurred by Meghan's suicidal feelings, and he had begged his family, how bad does it have to get until I'm allowed to do this? Until I'm allowed to flee this terrible prison, this concentration camp of an existence? The anger fueling their urgency to leave Britain was transmitted to Los Angeles. So Nick Collins was told to start looking for more acting roles for Meghan. Yeah, right. As if anybody would want to hire this woman. Andrew Mayer, her business agent, was told to start trying to negotiate a mammoth deal like the Obamas had with Netflix. And then at the same time, in parallel, she was encouraged by David Furnish, Elton John's partner, to cooperate on an animation series. So she's over here trying to get work back up. Remember how she was all like, I'm just going to be a royal. I think it's time for me to hang up my acting hat. It just looks like it's time for that chapter to be done, as fun as it was. And now that she sees that, oh, wait a second, if I become a royal, I don't just get to swim around in swimming pools of cash. People are watching what I do. Then suddenly she doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay. Now we come to one of the cringiest episodes I think that we've heard thus far. And you guys know that for me to say that, it has to be pretty extreme because the entire book, you're over there just getting secondhand embarrassment on every page. This is not a news story. I know you guys have heard this one before, but to read it again and to read the words actually on the page, I mean, literally, I just felt like wanting to crawl up into a ball and rocking back and forth just from the secondhand embarrassment alone. It's horrific. I don't do well with secondhand embarrassment. I can't watch shows like The Office. I mean, I do, but the entire time I'm tense. But this is just horrific. This is horrific on every single level. Meghan's veil fell on the 14th of July at the London premiere of Disney's The Lion King, which is Harry's favorite film. Remember how he used to put himself to sleep with Sounds of Africa? He must have loved all the scenes with the hyenas. That's his favorite. In the lineup that evening, she did not hide her desperation. Pharrell Williams, the rapper, told her that he was so happy about their marriage and added, "We cheer you guys on." Touching his arm, Meghan smiled. "Thank you. They don't make it easy." Okay, get over yourself enough already. Can you imagine? Everywhere that she goes, it's about her. She's constantly looking for an opportunity to be like, "Yeah, your dress is really pretty. I wanted to wear a dress like that too, except for they wouldn't let me. Oh, I like your dark fingernail polish. I wish I could wear stuff like that, but they won't let me." It's like everything has to be back to her and her whining and her complaining. And it's like, why couldn't she have just been like, "Thank you so much. We're enjoying our first year of marriage." You know, it's like she can't ever just let an opportunity go and just like be a cheerful, happy, hopeful, joyful person. It's always going to be like, "Oh, thank you for like noticing me, because no one ever notices me." And it's like, girl, that's all anybody does is notice you and your pain and your hardship and your heartache. It's all we've heard about for years and years now. Minutes later, Harry was speaking to the film's director. "If anyone needs any extra voiceover work," he began, only to be interrupted by Meghan. "That's really why we're here," she said. "It's the pitch." Harry praised Meghan's acting abilities. Next, Harry approached Robert Iger, Disney's chief executive, famous for the quip, "They only root for you in Hollywood when your cancer is terminal." And he says to Iger, "You know she does voiceovers." "I did not know that," replied the executive. "You seem surprised," said Harry. "She's really interested." "Sure, we'd love to try," said Iger, grasping that the prince was touting for work. "That's a great idea." I mean, this, like, really pitiful salesman's pitch. "You seem surprised." Like, "Oh, I'm shocked you wouldn't know something so obvious. You don't want to be stupid for not knowing. Come on in, I'll help you out." I mean, this is so gross. This would be gross if he wasn't a prince. This is disgusting considering that he comes from the royal family. And he's over here just being like, "Could you throw some pennies on the floor so that we can crawl around? Just please, any crumbs off the table, anything you got. We'll take whatever scraps you got. You got some old lettuce over there. Chew on a soggy tomato. We're hungry. It's like, this is so embarrassing. Please stop. The Sussex's successful pitch was only marred by their later realization that all their exchanges had been recorded. Meghan did narrate Disney's documentary Elephants Without Borders, the story of a group of elephants at risk from poachers, but the reviews were not enthusiastic. A spectacular of schmaltz, a sugary taste, and the right side of annoying were among the most favorable comments in the reviews. Shortly after the Lion King premiere, Meghan went to watch Serena Williams play at Wimbledon. Oh, you guys. We go from episode to episode. We're like a stone skipping over the sewers. I mean, we're just constantly pinging after various terrible stories. All right, here's another one. She goes to Wimbledon. Dozens of professional photographers and TV cameras recorded and broadcast her presence in the royal box. Then an altercation occurred. What could it be? Oh, Meghan's being a diva over here, except she's not a diva at all, you guys. Meghan ordered her bodyguard to tell a female spectator not to photograph her. She was at Wimbledon, she declared, in her private capacity. Well, is that why you're in the royal box? Because you're in your private capacity? Huh. I didn't know royals had a private capacity. That's news to me. But she was in her private capacity, this little caveat you didn't know about. The next day, Lorraine Kelly wrote in The Sun, "Either they're private citizens and pay for their own loft extension, or they are royals and have to share the big event in their lives with the rest of the world. They really can't have it both ways." Now, with the exception of the king and the queen, very few people realize that Meghan was detaching herself from the royal family. Now, I think most of us have lives, so that's why we weren't, watching every minutia of this story. But had we even paid a little bit of attention, I would say that it probably wasn't just the king and queen who realized. And I'd say that when she decided that the British people weren't good enough to know that her baby had been born and she broadcast it in America instead, that might have been the heads up. She was counting the weeks until her return to California. Her spokeswoman said that Meghan would not be taking maternity leave because she wanted to prove herself through work. What kind of boneheaded statement is that? Who has a baby and thinks that it's bragging to say, I'm not going to take maternity leave? One of two things are at play here. Either you don't actually have kids, or you're just a bad mom. Because who has a baby and then says, oh, I could take maternity leave. I'm not going to, though, because I want to prove myself through work. Why don't you prove yourself as a mother and take care of the kid? It's like, it's one thing if you are just like, you can't take maternity leave because you've had a baby, but you got to keep on hustling because someone's got to put bread on the table. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you are more than capable. People want you to go and enjoy these first several weeks with your baby. You've got maternity leave that you are more than welcome to take. They'll probably give you extra if you wanted it. And she says, oh, no, actually, I'm not going to. I'm going to prove myself through work. But then go on to do no work. Other than one engagement to promote SmartWorks, she undertook no public work that summer. She watched polo and tennis matches. She repeatedly flew on private jets for holiday trips with Harry and Archie. They stayed at Elton John's in St. Tropez, the Clooney's in Como, in a friend's 7-bedroom villa, advertised at £100,000 per week. For Meghan, it seemed taking private jets was like ordering an Uber. Oh, but she's not going to take maternity leave. Oh, no. There's just too much to get done in the world for work and for the good of the globe. Please, Meghan, shove it. Inevitably, her critics, especially the Sun newspaper, objected. The couple want all the pluses and none of the minuses of royal life. They have imploded into an unhappy mess of self-pity and perceived victimhood, utterly disconnected from the much greater stresses ordinary people often endure. Well, the Sun said it all. I mean, that's all we need to hear. That's exactly what's happening here. To silence the calls of hypocrisy, Meghan's publicist once again contacted her friends. Who are these friends that she still has? I mean, the clingers on? I wouldn't call those people friends. The result was a synchronized chorus of support. Elton John comes crawling out, and of course I think he only did it because Harry is the son of Diana. He says, I'm calling on the press, said Elton John, to cease these relentless and untrue assassinations on their character that are spuriously crafted on an almost daily basis. Elton John had had his own problems with the press, so he might have wanted, he was able to come out and say some things, probably thinking about his own situation more than he was thinking about theirs. But Jessica Mulrooney comes out and posts this on Instagram. Shame on you, you racist bullies! 3 years of undeserved hate and abuse. It's enough! And it's almost like, okay, what, Jessica? Did you just type that half asleep for all the effort you put into it? I mean, what? The actress Jamila Jamil justified the private jets as protection from the public. She said that it's not safe for us to be on the same planes. They are prime targets for kidnap and sometimes assassination. Get the F out of here with this, okay, you guys and your stupid private protection. So why is it that William and Catherine can take their kids on low-budget plane rides all over the place, and you guys are somehow some super high target for offense? Harry defied their critics. In early August, he traveled by private jet and helicopter to the Google camp in Sicily to speak about the climate change crisis. Oh, you guys, it's always so gross when the people get together. All the elites of the world get together with their private jets and their super yachts, and they come to talk to us about how we need to care about the planet. It's like they're mocking us. It's like they're rubbing our face in their privilege and being like, well, we can. But you sad sacks better go over there and eat some bugs. I just can't with these people. Free from the constraints of palace etiquette, Harry tasted a movie star's freedom alongside Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Cruise, Orlando Bloom, and singer-songwriter Harry Styles. What are all these people doing talking about climate change? What about their lifestyle has ever given us the idea that they care one whit about it? Do they think that we're over there just, in our dimly lit homes, turning on our little TVs and being like, what do they want us to do next? What should we do? I don't know which way to turn unless Orlando Bloom tells me how I should feel about the planet. As royals, both he and Meghan felt entitled to use their status to lecture others. Harry wrote at the same time on the Sussexes' Instagram page, "Every choice, every footprint, every action makes a difference." Oh, does it? So is that why you can't stop getting on those private jets? I mean, how can you tell me that every action makes a difference? And then be like, but where's the private jet? I'm not going on commercial. You're crazy. Like his hosts, Harry justified his use of private jets to protect his family from these people. Although he could never identify who these people are or what the never-ending threat is that he keeps talking about. These people. I mean, it's a never-ending threat. Every time I turn around, someone's after me. But who are these shadowy, nebulous individuals crouching behind every tree and bush to take you down? Like, give me one instance when that's actually happened, and I would side with you. If you could tell me one time when you were beaten in the streets by some hooligan just waiting to rip your face off, then we could all be like, well, yeah, he does have a point. Remember the hooligan that got him? But all the rest of it, it's like you don't have any leg to stand on here. There was a new arrogance to Harry's preaching. He resented scrutiny of his behavior. Soon after his visit to Sicily, he staged a press conference in Amsterdam to promote his new online eco-travel campaign, Travelist. And he was outraged that his audience asked him to justify his use of private jets. Did he never expect anybody would ask him this question? See, this is when he should have been using all of that help from the palace. Because the palace could have sat him down and been like, okay, you've been on a lot of those private jets, okay? And people are going to start asking, how come you can and they can't? So this is the answer you give, right? If he'd had any kind of self-awareness, he would have realized that his hypocrisy was going to get called out eventually. And he would have planned to have an answer. But no, he just decides to be angry about it. So his outraged reply when they asked him about his private jets was to claim that 99% of his flights were commercial. And he was visibly annoyed that his answers were being scrutinized. And hovering in the background was this Sunshine Sachs executive who kept telling him, just be evasive. You don't have to get into it. Just be evasive. You don't have to say anything. Yeah, you do, though, because you keep telling me that I got to mind my P's and Q's and make sure that I'm not taking one step out of line or the sky's going to fall. But you're over here zipping back and forth all over the globe on a private jet? Yeah, you got to explain how that makes sense. He, again, kept saying, I'm only doing it for privacy. It's the privacy of my family. I have to take a private... You don't think I want to live like this? Every time I'm on a private jet, I'm so worried that I'm going to start a tsunami or something that's going to take the world out. But he's over here saying that 99% of his flights are commercial, right? He's just talking out of his ass because in reality, 60% of his flights were private. Okay, so either he just totally can't do math or he doesn't care about the truth. I think we can assume both. But, look at him just 99% of my flights. You think we can't look this up? These two are living in a ridiculous reality where nothing matters except for the moment in time that they're living in. There's never going to be anything that comes back to haunt them. So he says, 99% of my flights are commercial. And then when everyone's like, that's crazy because every time we see you get on a plane, it's not on a commercial flight. So then he tries to cover himself by saying, no one's perfect. And besides that, I plant trees to offset my carbon footprint. So if I get on a jet, doesn't matter because I'm going to go plant a tree. All right? So why don't you just get off my back? And then people were like, okay, yeah, but how many trees, right? Like you say that, but like how does that work? You get on a plane and get off and plant a tree? Like what's your system here? They keep pushing him and he's flabbergasted that anybody's bothering him about this. So as they continue to ask him, he's starting to feel persecuted. So he falls back on that same old lie of his. Well, I have to do it. Because if I don't, someone's going to come and gun down me and my family. Is that what you want? So here I am trying to protect me and mine and you just want to come after me all the time. That's how you all are anyway. You're always trying to come after me. You're always trying to make my life terrible. It's always been this way. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to find myself inside of a tunnel dead on the side of the road. But what was clear is, from this entire back and forth exchange, was that Harry felt that he was being persecuted. And persecuted because everything he said was the truth. His truth. Didn't matter if there was contradictory narratives running. It didn't matter if getting into a private jet completely offsets the fact that he says that every little thing you do is going to have ramifications for the climate. So long as it was words coming out of his mouth in that moment, that was the truth. This is the way. Walk ye in it. Don't even bother to question me. If you question me, you're persecuting me. It's completely and totally. I mean, this is some 8th grade behavior right here. Meanwhile, the Cambridges see a opportunity to retaliate. So they decided to summon the media to film them flying on a low-budget airline from Norwich to Aberdeen for the summer holidays in Balmoral. Well, then Meghan, like this is going to be some big punishment, comes out swinging and says, "Oh yeah? Well, if that's how you want to be, then we're not even going to go to Balmoral and spend the holidays with you." Thank you, Meghan. We are actually going to have a great time now. Oh, you must love us after all. Thank you for sparing us from your presence. Meghan said that they weren't going to follow the Cambridges to Balmoral, and the reason being was because Archie was only 3 months old and couldn't fly. Which is why 2 seconds later she got on a plane and went to Ibiza. She continued to fly, although she did choose to fly commercial to New York to watch Serena Williams play in the final U.S. Open. So flying wasn't an issue for Archie, except for if he was going to Balmoral. Then suddenly the airlines were unsafe for a 3-month-old. Days later, Meghan and Harry flew by private jet to Misha Nonu's wedding in Rome. Nonu's second husband, Mike Hess, was the son of an oil billionaire. Just the type Meghan enjoyed meeting, and the sort that Nonu admired. And that's the end of the chapter. Can you even? Every single page of this chapter, I mean, juicy, juicy, juicy behavior from the Sussexes. And the sort of thing that we've come to know them for, I mean, greedy, conniving, transactional, just yuck when it comes to the people that they are. But, I mean, the fact that they are just not even trying to hide it anymore, that they would go to a very public event like the Lion King premiere and in the receiving line be trying to cut deals. It's like, you guys need to figure out when and where to be so weird, right? Because, like, your constant need to pitch, it's getting old and it's getting gross. But to do it at a receiving line, you're here to see and promote these people. You're here in celebration of what these people have accomplished. This isn't where you get to go and be like, we're here for the pitch. She's got some great voiceovers. She's a great voice actress. You don't know that, really? It's just like, oh my gosh. You guys are so embarrassing. It's so humiliating watching them. And they have no clue. They have no clue that we're all laughing at them. Anyway, all right, y'all. I am off to DC this afternoon. Lo and behold, the doctor said we could go. Actually, I kind of think we could have gone initially. It is only a perforated eardrum. I mean, not to make light of my husband's predicament. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video I did yesterday on Sunday. It's not this series, but it's the other book. And I give the whole story. Anyway, we've been cleared. The ENT said we could go. He said there's no infection, even though he did jump into a lake with nasty lake water. So we're good to go. Anyway, like I've been saying, many's the videos. I might be in and out this week, and we might have fewer episodes this week. Maybe we won't, maybe we will. I know you guys' lives will go on. But anyway, I will see you either later this week or more next week. But I enjoyed spending this time with you. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it and subscribe if you haven't. By the way, my last word to you. I've been watching my subscription numbers doing weird things. And then I keep hearing people saying, oh, I was unsubscribed, but that wasn't because I unsubscribed. So if you would just take a minute, check your subscription. If you did subscribe and you have been unsubscribed, then I don't know what that's about. But YouTube's weird. It's the Wild West out here. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.